Hello there. I'm a first-time builder of computers, and I wanted to share my journey of trying to build a semi-exotic wall-mounted computer that has a custom water loop cooling system using hard tube. The special part about what I'm going to do is it's going to be wall-mounted in terms of the computer chassis, and then the water tubes are going to carry water down to a separately wall-mounted massive radiator. And so my goal in recording this video is to share some of the things that I've encountered already and will encounter. If you're going to be doing a similar wall-mounted build using some of the same parts, maybe some of the information that I'll share will be of help. So the reason why I'm choosing to build a wall-mounted computer is because I've got very little space. I'm not going to show you where you are right now, but you're actually in my bedroom. And this is the only place in my house that I can have a computer. I have a nice 6-foot by 2-foot workbench, but I don't want to waste any of this space for a desktop PC. I want to preserve it all for other projects. And so I knew that I needed to preserve space by doing wall mounting, and so I quickly settled upon this Thermaltake Core P3 chassis. And then I'm going to pair that with this MSI MPG Z690 Force. I'm going for a white theme, as you might imagine. The graphics card that I have is a Asus 3080 Tuf. It's one of the 12 gigabyte variants. I've got, in terms of cooling, I've got the MO-Ra3 radiator made by Watercool out of Germany. It's a 420 millimeter radiator by 420 millimeters. It is massive. And when I initially wanted to build this computer, I was really hoping to make it this powerful, silent thing. In fact, I had visions of doing it as a completely passive build, but I quickly realized there would be too many compromises that would have to be made. For example, a completely fanless build could be done, but the power supplies that we currently have here in 2022 are so limited. If your goal is to build a top-tier gaming system that can maybe do a little bit of video editing and 3D rendering on the side. And so I quickly realized that I would have to have at least a fan for the power supply. And then I also realized that with the radiator, although in theory, if I had a huge surface area of radiator and not that much of a chip or CPU and video card that needed cooling, I could get away with being fanless. But since I'm going for top-tier components, I need to be able to clear 500 watts worth of heat using this Intel i12-700K paired with that 3080. And I have some intentions of doing overclocking just as an enthusiast build. And so, of course, as I was designing this build, I realized that I didn't have endless funds, so I needed to be not crazy with what I was building. And yet, since I wanted to do this silent, powerful build using this monster radiator, of course, I wanted to get a powerful PSU. And so I ended up getting this Be Quiet Dark Power Pro 1500 watt power supply, which I was able to get on like a flash sale on Amazon, so it wasn't outrageously expensive. It's still expensive though. All right, so let's see. I think the next thing I'd like to share is some of my journey just in terms of designing this project. So I'll start by showing you my early sketches. I have kind of traced where I would have the computer chassis on the wall, and then I flanked it by a lot of these 360 millimeter radiators. I was envisioning this as being a completely passive system, and you've heard how I've gradually trended away from that towards a fan system. Over time, I realized that mounting all of those individual radiators was going to be a bit of a structural challenge. It was actually kind of fun to come up with some solutions or some attempts at solutions for mounting a bunch of individual 360 millimeter, 420 millimeter, 540 millimeter radiators. Along the way, I toyed with the idea of just going to the hardware store and purchasing, square tube and slotted bar and just trying to build a support structure. I then discovered a system called Unistrut that's available here in the USA, may be available in other parts, but it's got a lot of modular parts that are made to fit together. It's like Legos for adults. And in my plans for doing a lot of this, I had to think about force vectors and how impacts would be transmitted through the chassis. I had all of these guide wires with turnbuckles and tension cables to keep that structure stable. And I had a lot of doubts about my ability to safely design it, and my ability to actually make it in a not cost exorbitant way. Ultimately, the solution that really made so much sense to me, rather than having a bunch of individual radiators, was to have one massive radiator. That way, the mounting of it would be more simple, more straightforward. In fact, this MO-Ra3 is designed to be wall mounted. It's got its own support brackets that I ended up purchasing to go with it. Well, with that all said, I think we're actually ready to start working on this project. So here along the wall, it's a blank space right now, but I've already started to mark where I want to put the wall mount for the computer chassis. I'm going to do that first so that all the drilling and the painting, anything else that makes a mess will be done with. Then I'll do the same or a separate wall mount, but another wall mount for the radiator below it. And once I'm done with all that heavy lifting, I'll actually get to the part where I can do the more delicate bits, build the case, and put all the components inside. Here we go.